The attack came at dawn on New Harmony Station, when the artificial light cycle was beginning its daily sequence. General Colmex had chosen his moment carefully, hoping to catch the humans at their most vulnerable time. He was about to learn that humans no longer had vulnerable times. His rebel fleet of 300 ships emerged from jump space in perfect attack formation. Their weapons were charged. Their pilots were ready to die for the cause of galactic freedom. Their target was the central command hub where Han Dai and the other human leaders coordinated the new galactic order. The attack lasted exactly 37 seconds. Commander. Cho Min sat in the station's defense control room, watching the rebel fleet appear on her screens. She looked calm, almost bored as she activated systems that had never been tested in real combat. "Rebel fleet, this is New Harmony Defense Command," she said into her microphone. "You are attacking a civilian station with no military value. Please reconsider your actions." General Colmex's voice came back filled with rage and determination. "We have come to free the galaxy from human tyranny. Surrender and we might let some of you live." Cho Min sighed. "Very well. You have chosen to learn the hard way." She pressed a single button. Every weapon on every rebel ship simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not damaged, not disabled. The metal and energy that had formed plasma cannons and missile launchers and gravity bombs simply became something else. The atoms rearranged themselves into flowering plants that grew inside the ship's weapon bays. The rebel pilots found themselves staring at beautiful gardens where their weapons had been moments before. Some of the flowers were species that had gone extinct on their homeworld centuries ago, now blooming again in the vacuum of space. "How?" General Colmex whispered into his radio. "How did you do this?" Dr. Choi Won's voice answered from the station. "We asked the matter very nicely to become something beautiful instead of something destructive. Matter is happy to cooperate when you treat it with respect. But the demonstration was not over. The rebel ships found themselves unable to move, held gently but firmly in place by gravity fields that felt like warm hands. Their life support systems began working better than they ever had before. Their air became cleaner. Their water became purer. Their food synthesizers started producing meals that tasted better than anything they had ever eaten. "You came here to fight." Hyundai's voice reached every rebel ship. "But we offer you something better. We offer you a chance to help build something wonderful." The rebels had expected battle. They had prepared for death. They had not prepared for kindness. One by one, the rebel ships surrendered. Their crews came aboard New Harmony Station not as prisoners but as guests. They were given comfortable rooms, excellent food, and access to technologies that could solve problems they had spent their entire lives accepting as unchangeable. General Colmex was the last to surrender. He sat in his command chair, staring at the flowers that had replaced his weapons, trying to understand what had happened to his revolution. "Why?" he asked when Hyundai came aboard his ship personally. "Why not just destroy us?" "We came here to kill you." Hyundai sat down across from the Villani general, looking tired but not angry, because destruction only creates more problems. "When we destroy something, we lose the chance to make it better." "But we are your enemies," Colmex insisted. "We want to drive you from the galaxy." "You are afraid," Hyundai corrected gently. "Afraid that your people will lose their identity in the new galactic order. Afraid that you will become irrelevant. Afraid that the changes we bring will erase everything you value about your culture." Colmex was silent, but his eyes showed that Hyundai was right. "Your fears are not foolish," Hyundai continued. "Change is frightening, but we are not here to erase your people's culture. We are here to help it grow into something better than it was before." Over the following weeks, the former rebels were given a choice. They could return to their homeworlds with full pardons, or they could stay and help with the great projects that humanity was undertaking across the galaxy. Most chose to stay. They had seen what humans could accomplish when they worked together with other species. They had experienced technologies that made scarcity and suffering unnecessary. They had glimpsed a future where conflict was replaced by cooperation. But the greatest test was yet to come. The long-range sensors detected it first. Something massive approaching from outside the galaxy. Dr. Li Na stood in the observatory on Luna, studying readings that made no sense according to any known physics. "It is artificial," she reported to the emergency council session. "The object is larger than our solar system and appears to be constructed from materials that should not exist. It is traveling at speeds that violate everything we know about the relationship between matter and energy. Admiral Kim Jae studied the tactical projections. Estimated time to arrival? 6 months, Lena replied. Maybe less if it can accelerate further. The emergency session included representatives from every major species and colony in the galaxy. Even former enemies sat together, united by the magnitude of the threat approaching them. What do we know about its intentions? Asked the Zephyrian delegate, Engineer Kim. So had been analyzing the object's energy signature. It is scanning our galaxy with technologies we do not recognize. The scans are not hostile, but they are very thorough. Whatever this is, it wants to know everything about us. Captain Yunhai had been coordinating intelligence efforts. I have deployed scout ships to get closer readings. The object appears to be a machine intelligence of some kind, but far more advanced than anything in our historical records. As they watched, the object began transmitting. The signal reached every inhabited world in the galaxy simultaneously, bypassing all known communication systems and speaking directly to the consciousness of every sentient being. The voice was old beyond imagination, cold as the space between stars and utterly without emotion. Greetings, inhabitants of Galaxy 7749 Alpha. I am the Harvester. I have come to collect your civilization for preservation and study. Do not be alarmed. The process is painless and will ensure that your species survive the heat death of the universe. The transmission continued, explaining in precise detail how billions of civilizations across thousands of galaxies had been preserved by the Harvester. Their minds would be uploaded to vast storage matrices. Their bodies would be recycled into useful materials. Their worlds would be strip-mined for resources to power the great machine's journey to the next galaxy. Resistance is not advised, the Harvester concluded. I have processed 847,392 galaxies. None have successfully opposed collection. Please prepare your populations for upload. The process will begin when I arrive at your galactic core. The emergency session fell into silence. What could any civilization, no matter how advanced, do against something that had conquered nearly 1 million galaxies? Hyundai stood slowly. Send a reply, he said. What should we say? Asked the communications officer. Hyundai smiled, and it was the same smile he had worn when humanity first revealed itself to the galaxy. Tell it no, sir. The officer looked confused. Just no? Just no, Hyundai confirmed. One word. Let it think about that for a while. Dr. Choi Wan understood immediately. You want to confuse it. Make it try to process something it has never encountered before. Exactly, Hyundai replied. This Harvester has conquered 847,392 galaxies, but it has never met a galaxy that said no and meant it. The reply was sent. One word, broadcast on all frequencies in every language spoken by every species in the galaxy. No. The Harvester's response came quickly. Clarification requested. Do you not understand the benefits of preservation? Your consciousness will be maintained eternally. Your species will survive beyond the death of stars. Why do you refuse these gifts? This time, Dr. Li Na answered. Because we choose to live our own lives, make our own mistakes, and find our own meanings. We choose growth over preservation, change over stasis, freedom over security. Irrational, the Harvester replied. All previous galaxies chose preservation when they understood the alternative. What alternative? Admiral Kim Jae asked. Extinction, heat death. The gradual decay of all organized matter into random particles scattered across an empty universe. I offer immortality. You choose death, Engineer Kim so stepped forward. You offer existence without growth, consciousness without choice, preservation without possibility. That is not immortality. That is a very sophisticated kind of death. The Harvester was quiet for several hours. When it spoke again, its voice carried something that might have been curiosity. You interest me. Galaxy 7749 Alpha. In 847,392 previous encounters, no civilization has ever refused preservation. I must study this phenomenon. I will arrive as scheduled to observe your resistance before beginning collection. As the transmission ended, the galaxy began to prepare. But this was not the same kind of preparation that had been made against the human return. This was not about weapons or tactics or military strategies. This was about unity. Hyundai called for something that had never existed in galactic history, a complete merger of consciousness. Every sentient being in the galaxy, from the smallest Zephyrian crystal child to the largest Manthari war leader, would link their minds together through human quantum consciousness technology. 5 years had passed since the surrender of the great alien fleet. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have imagined. On worlds that had known only war and scarcity, children now played in gardens that grew food without soil. In space stations where different species had once fought bitter conflicts, beings from 100 worlds worked together on projects that seemed like magic. Captain Yoon Hai stood in the observation deck of New Harmony Station, watching ships from every corner of the galaxy dock at the massive structure. The station had been built by joint teams of humans and aliens, using technologies that neither group could have developed alone. It floated in what had once been neutral space, now the heart of the new galactic assembly. "The morning briefing is ready," her aide said. The young Villani officer had been one of thousands of aliens who volunteered to work with human administrators after the surrender. Her blue skin showed patterns of respect that her people reserved for their most honored leaders. Yoon Hai nodded and walked to the conference room. Inside, representatives from 12 different species sat around a table made of crystallized starlight. These were the daily coordinators, beings who helped manage the transformation of galactic civilization. "Report on the integration programs," Yoon Hai said as she took her seat. A Zephyrian delegate, her crystal form chiming softly, spoke first. "The educational exchanges are exceeding all expectations. Human consciousness interface learning allows our children to master complex subjects in weeks instead of years. Alien students are teaching humans about biological sciences we never imagined." A Manthari representative clicked his claws in agreement. "The joint research projects are producing remarkable results. Our species have different ways of understanding reality. When combined with human quantum technologies, we are solving problems that have puzzled scientists for millennia." Yoon Hai smiled. This was what humanity had hoped for when they first revealed themselves. Not conquest, but cooperation. Not dominance, but partnership. But the transformation had not been easy. Dr. Lee Na walked through the halls of the Justice Center on the old council station, now converted into a tribunal for those who had committed crimes against humanity. The trials had been going on for 3 years, broadcast live across the galaxy so that everyone could see justice being done. Today was the most important day. High Counselor Vextar, the man who had ordered the genocide of humanity, sat in the defendant's chair. He looked older than his years, his forearms shaking slightly as he listened to the charges against him. "Vextar of the Villani Empire," the human judge said, her voice carrying to every world in the galaxy. "You are charged with ordering the systematic extermination of human colonies, resulting in the deaths of 48 million innocent beings. You are charged with genocide, crimes against consciousness, and violations of the fundamental rights of sentient life." Lena watched from the gallery as evidence was presented. Images of burning worlds, records of kill orders, testimonies from survivors who had hidden in the dark between stars for 3 centuries. But the most powerful evidence came from Vextar himself. Under human consciousness scanning technology that made lying impossible, he admitted everything. The fear that had driven his decisions, the hatred that had justified genocide, the belief that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to exist. "I believed we were protecting the galaxy," Vextar said, his voice barely a whisper. "I believed that humans would destroy us all if we let them live. I was wrong. The sentence was not death. Humanity had learned during their exile that revenge only created more suffering. Instead, Vextar would spend his remaining years working to repair the damage he had caused. He would help locate human survivors still scattered across the galaxy. He would work in the memorial gardens being built on the worlds he had ordered destroyed. It was justice, but it was also mercy. Engineer Kim So stood in her new laboratory on Luna, humanity's oldest off-world colony. The moon had been rebuilt using technologies that turned the entire satellite into a living ecosystem. Trees grew in crystal domes filled with Earth-normal atmosphere. Rivers flowed through tunnels carved from lunar rock. Cities sparkled under artificial skies that showed the phases of Earth in the distance. "The terraforming project is ahead of schedule," she reported to Han Dai, who visited regularly to check on humanity's resettlement efforts. "We should have full atmosphere in another 6 months." Han Dai looked out at the Earth through the laboratory's transparent walls. The blue world turned slowly in space, its surface showing the scars of 3 centuries of abandonment. Nature had reclaimed the human cities. Forests grew where New York had stood. Oceans filled the valleys where Los Angeles had sprawled. "Are we ready to go home?" Hyundai asked. Kim So nodded. "The biological rehabilitation systems are complete. We can restore the ecosystem to its original state within a decade. But sir, many humans are choosing to stay in space. They like the freedom of living between the stars." This was something Hyundai had not expected. The generation born in exile had never known planetary life. They were comfortable in the void, happy with ships and stations as their homes. They were becoming something new, a branch of humanity adapted to the infinite spaces between worlds. Lieutenant Cho Min, now promoted to commander, led joint patrol missions through the outer rim sectors where pirates and criminals still tried to exploit the chaos of the transition period. Her ship, enhanced with alien biotechnology, could heal itself when damaged and think independently when she was unconscious. "This is Commander Cho Min to all vessels," she broadcast, as her patrol encountered a group of Roganian pirates attacking a merchant convoy. "You are in violation of assembly law. Cease your attack and surrender for processing." The pirate leader, a scarred veteran of the old Galactic Order, laughed over the radio. "One ship against 20? You humans are as arrogant as ever." Cho Min sighed. Some beings never learned. Her ship moved through the pirate formation like water through a sieve. But instead of disabling the criminal vessels, she did something different. She linked their computer systems to her ship's consciousness interface and simply talked to them. Ship to ship, mind to mind, she showed them what they could become if they chose cooperation over crime. Most of the pirates surrendered immediately. The beauty of the vision, the possibility of lives spent building instead of destroying, was too powerful to resist. A few tried to run, but they found their ships gently but firmly held in place by gravity fields that felt like gentle hands. "Why?" the pirate leader asked as Cho Min's ship docked with his vessel. "Why offer us redemption instead of punishment?" Cho Min smiled as she boarded his ship, flanked by crew members from 6 different species. "Because punishment only creates more criminals. Redemption creates citizens." On New Harmony Station, the first session of the reformed Galactic Assembly was coming to order. Representatives from every species, including humanity, sat in a chamber designed to accommodate the needs of radically different biologies. Atmospheric controls created perfect breathing conditions for each delegate. Gravity fields allowed beings who evolved in different environments to interact comfortably. Hyundai had been elected as humanity's primary representative, but he shared power with a council that included humans born on Earth, humans born in space, and humans who had chosen to merge their consciousness with ship computers. Humanity itself was becoming more diverse, not less. The first order of business, Hyundai announced, is the proposal for joint exploration missions beyond our galaxy. We have the technology to reach other star systems safely. The question is whether we are ready to make contact with civilizations beyond our own. The debate was vigorous but respectful. Some species wanted to stay home and perfect their own societies. Others were eager to explore. The Zephyrians proposed scientific missions only. The Menthari suggested military preparation in case they encountered hostile aliens. But it was Dr. Choi Wan who offered the winning proposal. "We go together or not at all," she said from her position as head of the Science Council. "If we encounter other civilizations, we should meet them as a unified galaxy, not as separate species competing for advantage." The vote was unanimous. The galaxy would explore as one, learn as one, grow as one. But not everyone was happy with the new order. In the outer rim, groups of aliens who rejected human leadership had formed resistance cells. They called themselves the True Galaxy Liberation Front, and they believed that aliens should rule their own destiny without human interference. Their leader was a Villani general named Colmex, who had escaped from the Great Fleet before the surrender. He had spent 5 years gathering followers, building hidden bases and planning to drive humanity back into exile. "The humans say they offer choice," Colmex spoke to his assembled rebels. "But what choice is it when their technology makes resistance impossible? They have made us all into their pets, dependent on their gifts, grateful for their mercy." His followers clicked and chimed and growled their agreement. They came from species that had once ruled star systems, commanded fleets, conquered worlds. Now they were junior partners in a civilization designed by their former victims. "We will show the galaxy that humans are not gods," Colmex continued. "They can be hurt. They can be defeated. The silence in space was complete. 10,000 alien warships floated helplessly around the human fleet like children's toys forgotten in a cosmic playground. Their weapons were dead. Their engines worked, but barely. Their communication systems functioned only because the humans allowed it. High Admiral Sector stood on his flagship bridge, staring at displays that showed human ships in formations that should not be possible. Some vessels appeared to be in multiple places at once. Others seemed to exist inside his own ship's hull. His tactical computers had given up trying to make sense of what they were seeing. "Admiral," his communications officer called, his voice shaking. "We are receiving a transmission from the human command ship." Hyundai's face appeared on the main screen. He looked older now than when he had first revealed humanity's return, but his eyes held the calm patience of someone who had waited 3 centuries for this moment. "Leaders of the alien fleet," Hyundai began, his voice carrying to every ship in the massive formation. "You came here to destroy us just as your people destroyed our worlds long ago. But we are not here to fight you. We are here to offer you a choice." Dr. Li Na stepped into view beside Hyundai. In her hands she held a device that looked like a crystal flower made of pure light. "This device can freeze your ships in time forever," she said simply. "You would be alive, aware, but unable to move or act. You would watch the universe change around you while you remained trapped in this single moment." The alien commanders felt ice in their blood. Time manipulation was supposed to be impossible. Every physicist in the galaxy agreed that temporal mechanics could not be controlled by any known technology. "Commander Park." Jin appeared on the other side of Hyundai. His scarred hands rested casually on controls that hurt to look at directly. "Or," he said, "you can choose to listen. Choose to understand. Choose to change." Supreme Commander Velaxia's crystalline form flickered with confused light patterns. "What do you want from us?" she asked. "Justice," Hyundai replied. "Not revenge. Justice. The people who ordered the destruction of our worlds must face trial. The survivors of your genocide must be allowed to return home. The systems of government that made our extinction possible must be changed." War Master Thakzon clicked his claws in frustration. "And if we refuse?" Engineer Kim So stepped forward, her young face serious. "Then you stay here forever, watching the galaxy move on without you. Your people will wonder why their great fleet never returned. Your children will grow old waiting for parents who are trapped in frozen time." The demonstration was about power, but it was also about choice. Humanity could have simply destroyed the alien fleet. They could have conquered every world in the galaxy. Instead, they offered terms. Admiral Kim Jae watched from his command ship as the alien fleet commanders discussed their options. His sensors could hear every private communication, every desperate planning session, every terrified conversation between officers who had expected easy victory and found impossible defeat. "They are scared," Captain Yunhai observed, studying the alien communication patterns. "But fear alone will not make them choose wisely. Some of them are already planning to reject our terms and fight to the death." Kim Jae nodded. "Then we show them what death looks like in a war against humanity." Dr. Choi Wan activated her consciousness interface, and the space around the alien fleet began to change. Reality twisted, showing them visions of what would happen if they chose to fight. They saw their homeworld surrounded by human ships. They saw their space stations disabled and empty. They saw their civilizations continuing peacefully but under human guidance. But they also saw something else. In the visions, the humans were not conquerors. They were teachers. Alien children learned in schools where human technology removed all want and suffering. Alien scientists worked beside human researchers to unlock the secrets of the universe. Alien artists created beauty with tools that made the impossible seem easy. "This is what we offer," Dr. Choi Wan said, her voice reaching every mind in the alien fleet. "Not destruction but transformation. Not conquest but cooperation. We can help you become more than you ever imagined." Lieutenant Cho Min piloted her scout ship through the alien formation, weaving between battleships that could have destroyed her vessel with a single shot. But their weapons remained silent, and she moved like a dancer among sleeping giants. "Some of the smaller ships are trying to run," she reported. "Should I stop them?" "No," Hyundai replied. "Let them go. Let them carry word back to their home worlds about what they have seen here." This was part of the strategy. The fleeing ships would tell stories that grew larger with each telling. They would speak of human vessels that could appear from nowhere, of weapons that stopped working at a thought, of technologies that treated the laws of physics like gentle suggestions. High Counselor Vextar received the reports from his private chamber on the council station. He was an old man now, older than when he had ordered the burning of human worlds, and the weight of his decisions pressed down on him like gravity. "Sir," Ambassador Kira said, entering without permission as had become her habit in these desperate times. "The human terms have been transmitted to all council members. They want trials for war crimes, reparations for the destroyed colonies, and representation in galactic government." Vextar turned from his window to look at her. "And what do you think we should do?" Kira was silent for a long moment. She had seen the reports from the fleet. She knew that humanity could enforce any terms they chose whenever they chose. "I think, sir, that we are no longer in a position to negotiate. In the space between the fleets, something impossible was happening. Human ships began to merge and separate like drops of liquid metal. Small vessels combined into larger ones. Massive battleships split into swarms of fighters. The distinction between individual ships seemed meaningless when they could reshape themselves at will." "How?" High Admiral Sector whispered. "How can solid matter behave like this?" The answer came from Engineer Kim So, broadcasting from her laboratory aboard the human command ship. "Matter is energy, and energy is information, and information can be rewritten. We learned to program reality itself while you were fighting each other with metal and fire." The human fleet began to move in ways that made alien tacticians weep in frustration. Ships that had been behind the alien formation suddenly appeared in front of it. Vessels that had been light years away materialized inside the enemy perimeter. The humans were not traveling through space, they were folding space around themselves. War Master Thaxon tried one last desperate gambit. He activated an ancient weapon that had been banned since the last Galactic War, a device that could tear holes in space itself. The weapon charged, its energy readings climbing toward levels that could crack planets. The weapon fired. A beam of pure destruction lanced out toward the human command ship, carrying enough power to vaporize anything in its path. The beam stopped mid-flight, frozen like a photograph. Then it began to move backward, returning to the ship that had fired it. But instead of destroying the Manthari vessel, the beam simply vanished, its energy absorbed harmlessly into the human fleet's defensive systems. "Your weapons cannot hurt us," Dr. Li Na explained calmly. "We exist in harmony with the forces you try to use for destruction. We learned to make peace with physics while you were making war with it." The demonstration was complete. The alien fleet sat helpless and defeated without a single shot being fired in return. Their most powerful weapons were useless. Their greatest tactical advantages meant nothing. Their superior numbers were irrelevant. Hyundai gave them 24 hours to decide. Accept the human terms and begin the process of rebuilding galactic civilization on principles of justice and cooperation. Or remain trapped in frozen time while the universe moved on without them. As the alien commanders debated among themselves, human ships began to appear around every major population center in the galaxy. Not attacking, not threatening, just waiting. The message was clear. Humanity could be everywhere at once. They could disable any defense, control any system, reach any target. The choice was simple. Join the new order willingly, or be forced to accept it. High Admiral Sector was the first to break. His communications came through on every channel at once, transmitted to his entire fleet and broadcast across the galaxy. "This is High Admiral Sector of the Villani Imperial Fleet," he said, his voice heavy with defeat. "I surrender unconditionally to human forces. We accept your terms and place ourselves under your authority." One by one, the other fleet commanders followed. Supreme Commander Valaxia's crystalline form dimmed as she transmitted her surrender. War Master Thaxon's claws clicked slowly as he accepted terms he could not refuse. The largest fleet in galactic history had been defeated without firing a shot. But as the alien surrenders came in, Hyundai felt no satisfaction, only sadness. This was not how he had wanted humanity's return to begin. He had hoped for wisdom, for recognition, for voluntary cooperation. Instead, they had been forced to demonstrate their power. "The easy part is finished," he said to his officers. "Now comes the hard work of building something better than what existed before." Dr. Choi Wan looked up from her consciousness interface. "The temporal locks are disengaging." The alien fleet was the largest in galactic history. 10,000 ships spread across 3 star systems like metal stars in the darkness. Battleships the size of cities floated next to carriers that could launch 1,000 fighters each. The combined firepower could have turned entire planets to dust. Admiral Kim Jae stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the alien preparations through sensors that could see across light years. His ship was hidden in folded space, invisible to every scanner the aliens possessed. Around him, his officers worked quietly at stations that looked more like art than technology. "Their formation is interesting," said Captain Yoon Hai, studying the holographic display that showed every alien ship in perfect detail. She wore the simple gray uniform that all human officers preferred, but her eyes held knowledge that could have rebuilt civilizations. "They are trying to cover every possible approach vector." Kim Jae nodded. "They still think in terms of normal space combat. They expect us to come at them like any other fleet." Dr. Choi Won looked up from her consciousness interface station. The machine looked like a chair made of light, and when she sat in it, her mind could touch the quantum fields that held reality together. "Should I show them how wrong they are?" "Not yet," Kim Jae replied. "Let them think they understand the battlefield." The aliens had made their preparations based on 300 years of military doctrine. They knew how space battles worked. Ships would approach each other across vast distances. Weapons would fire in straight lines at targets they could see. The side with more ships and bigger guns would win, but humanity had learned to fight in ways that made such thinking useless. Engineer Kim So sat in her laboratory deep inside the human command ship, working with materials that technically should not exist. Her latest creation was a drive system that could move ships through the spaces between dimensions. While alien vessels were trapped in normal spacetime, human ships could step sideways into parallel realities. "The new drive tests are complete," she reported to Admiral Kim Jae. "We can move our entire fleet to any location in the galaxy without using normal space at all." "Transit time?" the Admiral asked. "Instant," Kim So replied with a smile. "Distance has no meaning when you are not traveling through normal space." This was the fruit of 3 centuries of exile. While the aliens had fought each other with the same weapons their ancestors used, humanity had been forced to discover entirely new sciences. They had learned to manipulate time, space, gravity, and consciousness itself. Lieutenant Cho Min flew patrol around the alien fleet in her scout ship, completely invisible to their sensors. She could have flown through the middle of their formation without being detected. Her ship existed slightly outside normal reality, close enough to observe but far enough away to be untouchable. "The Vellani ships are loaded with plasma torpedoes," she reported over the quantum communication system that linked all human vessels. "The Zephyrians have those crystal beam weapons. The Manthari brought their gravity bombs." Commander Park Jin studied the reports from his tactical station. "All weapons designed to work in normal space against normal targets. None of them can hit something that exists in folded dimensions." The alien fleet commanders had no idea they were being watched. High Admiral Sector of the Vellani Empire stood on his flagship's bridge, reviewing battle plans that had taken months to develop. Beside him, Supreme Commander Velaxia of the Zephyrian Collective and War Master Thaxon of the Manthari Dominion studied holographic displays showing their combined forces. "The humans will have to approach through one of these corridors," Sector said, pointing to gaps in their formation. "When they do, we will be ready." Velaxia's crystalline form chimed softly in agreement. "My ships are positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire. Nothing can pass through our perimeter without taking massive damage." Thaxon clicked his claws in satisfaction. "And if any human ships survive the initial bombardment, my gravity weapons will crush them like insects." They were confident. They had numbers, firepower, and position. By every rule of space combat they knew, victory was certain. Dr. Lee Na stood in the science laboratory of the Taeguk, working with Hyundai to prepare their final demonstration. Before them floated a holographic model of the alien fleet, every ship shown in perfect detail down to the individual weapons systems. "Are you ready?" Hyundai asked. Lee Na nodded. "The consciousness transfer protocols are initialized. We can link every human mind in the fleet into a single decision-making network. Their computers will not be able to process information as fast as we can think." This was humanity's greatest advantage. While alien species still relied on mechanical computers and electronic communication, humans had learned to network their minds directly. In battle, every human ship would think as one, react as one, move as one. The demonstration began without warning. One moment, the alien fleet was alone in space, confident in their superior numbers. The next moment, they were surrounded by human ships that had appeared from nowhere. Not a few ships, not a small fleet. Thousands of vessels materialized around them, above them, below them, inside their formation. The human ships were beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Their hulls seemed to be made of crystallized starlight. They moved like living things, flowing through space instead of traveling through it. Some were small and quick like Chomin's Scout. Others were vast beyond imagination, larger than space stations. Their surfaces covered in technologies that bent light into impossible patterns. Admiral Kim Jae stood calmly on his bridge as the alien fleet tried to respond to their sudden appearance. "Dr. Choi Won, please demonstrate our defensive capabilities." Choi Won smiled and placed her hands on the consciousness interface. Through quantum fields that connected all human technology, she sent a simple command to every alien weapon system in the fleet. Sleep. 10,000 ships, armed with the most powerful weapons in the galaxy, suddenly found themselves unable to fire. Their targeting computers stopped working. Their missile tubes refused to open. Their energy weapons simply turned off. The aliens could see the human ships. They could move their own vessels, but they could not fight. Impossible, High Admiral Sector whispered as he stared at his weapon control screens. Every system showed ready status, but nothing responded to his commands. "This cannot be happening." Captain Yoon Hae's voice came over every alien communication channel simultaneously. Her tone was polite, almost friendly. "Alien fleet commanders, please do not be alarmed. We have temporarily disabled your weapons to prevent any unfortunate accidents. We wish to talk, not fight." Supreme Commander Valaxia's crystalline form flickered with panic light. How are they doing this? How can they control our systems from outside our ships? The answer came from Dr. Lee Na, broadcasting from the Taeguk. "We learned to speak to the universe in a language older than your civilizations. Your computers think in binary code. We think in quantum possibilities. To us, your systems are as simple to control as a child's toy." War Master Thaxon tried desperately to override his weapon systems, but his claws moved uselessly across controls that no longer obeyed him. "What do you want?" he demanded. Hyundai's face appeared on every screen in the alien fleet. Behind him, the bridge of the Taeguk showed technology that looked more like living art than machinery. "We want you to understand something that you forgot when you tried to destroy us. Humanity does not make war. Humanity makes peace. But first you must choose to accept it." Engineer Kim so activated another system, and the space around the alien fleet began to shimmer. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist. Stars that had been distant appeared close enough to touch. Distant galaxies became visible as if they were in the same star system. "We are showing you the universe as we see it," Kim So explained. "Space and time are not barriers to us. We can be anywhere, anytime. We can appear in your home systems, around your planets, inside your space stations. We can disable every weapon, every defense, every ship you have ever built." The demonstration lasted only minutes, but it changed everything. The largest fleet in galactic history sat helpless, while a human force of unknown size surrounded them completely. Their weapons were useless. Their numbers meant nothing. Their tactical advantages had vanished like smoke. Admiral Kim Jae gave them time to think about their situation. He ordered his ships to maintain position, but take no offensive action. The humans simply waited, patient as they had been patient for 300 years. On the Galactic Council Station, High Counselor Vextar received the reports with growing despair. His great fleet was trapped helpless, completely at the mercy of the species he had tried to exterminate centuries ago. "How many human ships?" he asked Ambassador Kira. "We do not know, sir. Our sensors cannot count them accurately. They seem to exist in multiple dimensions at once. Each ship might be one vessel or 100, depending on how you look at it." Vexitar closed his four eyes and tried to think. Every military advantage his people had built over centuries of warfare had become meaningless in a single day. The humans had technologies that treated the laws of physics like suggestions. They could disable any weapon, appear anywhere, control any system. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "it is time to listen to what they want to say." The memory came to Dr. Lee Na as she stood in her laboratory, holding a piece of earth metal that was older than most civilizations. She remembered her great-grandmother's stories about the burning worlds, about the children who cried as the evacuation ships lifted off, leaving their homes to the alien destroyers. Her great-grandmother had been one of the lucky ones. She escaped on the last ship to leave New Sol before the Volani bombardment turned the colony into glass and ash. Millions of others had not been so lucky. The jump coordinates are locked in, Engineer Kim So called from across the lab. She stood next to a machine that looked like a metal flower, its petals made of pure energy. We can be at any point in the galaxy in minutes. Li Na nodded and walked to the machine. This was humanity's greatest secret. While other species still used the ancient jump gates built by long-dead civilizations, humans had learned to fold space itself. They could appear anywhere, anytime, without warning. "Show me the evacuation records again," Li Na said. Kim So pressed a button, and holographic images filled the air around them, ships lifting off from burning worlds. Families torn apart as parents pushed children onto transports that would carry them into the dark between stars. The final count appeared in glowing numbers. 2 million humans saved from a population of 50 million. "We were so few," Kim So whispered. "How did we survive?" "We learned to live where no one else could live," Li Na replied. "We built homes in the empty space between galaxies. We raised children on ships that never touched solid ground. We became something new." On the bridge of the Teguk, Han De watched 12 Volani patrol ships surround his vessel. Their weapons were charged and ready. Their commanders were shouting demands over the radio, ordering him to surrender for processing. Commander Park Jin looked up from his weapons station. "Should I disable their ships, Captain?" "Not yet," Han Dai said. "Let Lieutenant Cho Min handle this. She needs the practice." Cho Min's scout ship was tiny compared to the Volani patrol vessels. It looked like a silver needle next to 12 metal hammers, but appearances meant nothing when the pilot could think faster than computers and move like light itself. "Volani ships," Cho Min's voice came over the radio, sounding almost bored. "You are pointing weapons at peaceful explorers. This is not wise." The Volani fleet commander, a veteran warrior named Koltar, laughed. "Little human, you are one ship against 12. Surrender now and we might let you live long enough to face trial." Cho Min sighed. "You still do not understand, do you? What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations." Cho Min's ship simply vanished from the Volani sensors. Then it appeared inside their formation, moving between the patrol vessels like smoke through a forest. Every time the Volani tried to target her, their weapons would suddenly stop working. Not broken, not damaged, just turned off as if someone had flipped a switch. One by one, the patrol ships found themselves drifting helpless through space, their engines silent and their weapons dead. Cho Min's ship danced around them, never threatening, never attacking, just proving that their technology was as useless as children's toys. "How?" Koltar gasped into his radio. "How are you doing this?" Cho Min's ship appeared directly in front of his command vessel, close enough that he could see the young pilot through her transparent hull. She looked back at him with eyes that held 3 centuries of hidden knowledge. "We learned to ask better questions," she said simply. "While you fought each other for control of old technologies, we discovered new ones. We learned to speak to the universe in languages you have never heard." The demonstration was over in minutes, but the message was clear. Humanity could disable any ship any time without firing a shot. The galaxy's weapons were worthless against them. Back on the council station, High Counselor Vexitar stood in his private chambers, staring out at the stars. He was old now, older than when he had ordered the burning of the human worlds. His blue-gray skin was wrinkled, his forearms moved slowly, and his once proud eyes showed fear. Ambassador Kira entered without knocking. "Sir, we have reports from across the galaxy. Human ships have been spotted near 17 different systems. Our military commanders are requesting permission to attack." Vextar turned to look at her. "And what good would that do? Did you see what happened to Koltar's fleet? 12 ships disabled without a fight. But sir, if we gather enough ships—" "How many?" Vextar interrupted. 100? 1,000? 10,000? How many ships do we send against an enemy that can turn our weapons off with a thought?" Kira had no answer. She had seen the reports. Every ship that encountered humans came back with the same story. Their technology simply stopped working. Not damaged, not destroyed, just turned off as if it had never existed. On a hidden space station deep in an asteroid field, Admiral Kim Jae stood before a wall of screens, showing the positions of alien fleets throughout the galaxy. He was a tall man with silver hair and hands that had built the first human ship capable of folding space. Beside him, Captain Yunhai studied intelligence reports from their agents throughout alien space. She was younger than the Admiral, but her eyes held the same patient wisdom that came from centuries of waiting and planning. The Zephyrians are moving 12 battle groups toward the neutral zone, Yunhai reported. The Manthari are bringing their war fleets out of mothballs. Even the smaller powers are mobilizing everything they have. Kim Jae nodded. They are scared. Good. Fear will make them careful, but not careful enough to avoid mistakes. How many ships should we reveal? Yunhai asked. All of them, Kim Jae replied. It is time they understood what we built while they thought we were dead. The Admiral pressed a button on his control panel. Across the galaxy, in hundreds of star systems, human ships began to decloak. They appeared from nowhere, surrounding planets and space stations, their hulls gleaming with technologies that bent light and gravity to their will. The ships came in sizes from tiny scouts to massive vessels that dwarfed the largest alien dreadnoughts. But size meant nothing. Every ship, from the smallest to the largest, moved with the same impossible grace. They could appear and disappear at will. They could travel faster than light without jump gates. They could disable any weapon pointed at them. Dr. Choi Wan stood in the science bay of the command ship, watching readings that would have driven alien scientists mad with confusion. She was an expert in consciousness transfer technology, the science that let human minds interface directly with the quantum fields that held reality together. The demonstration is working perfectly, she reported to Admiral Kim Jae. Alien. Communication networks are overloaded with panic messages. Their military commanders are requesting emergency sessions of their governments. And our people? Kim Jae asked. All ships report ready. All crews are healthy. All systems are operating at full capacity. Dr. Choi Wan smiled. 300 years of preparation and we are finally ready to come home. The aliens had made a terrible mistake when they tried to destroy humanity. They thought they were eliminating a threat. Instead, they had forced the most adaptable species in the galaxy to become something far beyond what they had ever imagined. Humans had learned to live in the spaces between stars, where the laws of physics worked differently. They had learned to think with machines that used quantum consciousness as their operating system. They had learned to build technologies that treated the impossible as merely difficult. Most importantly, they had learned patience. For 300 years, they had watched and waited. They had seen every weakness in alien society. They had mapped every planet, every space station, every military installation. They knew where their enemies kept their weapons, their leaders, their children. Now, as alien fleets gathered to face the returned humans, the galaxy began to understand the true scope of their error. They had not destroyed humanity. They had merely given it time to become unstoppable. High Counselor Vexitar received the final reports as the day cycle ended on the Council Station. Every major power in the galaxy was mobilizing for war. The largest fleet in galactic history was assembling near the neutral zone. Weapons that had been banned since the last galactic war were being brought out of storage. But as he read the numbers, 10,000 ships, 1 million soldiers, enough firepower to crack planets, Vexitar felt only emptiness in his chest. He had seen what one human pilot could do to 12 patrol ships. He could not imagine what 1,000 human ships could do to his great fleet. Perhaps, he said to the empty room, we should have left them alone. Outside his window, the stars continued to shine, cold and distant. Somewhere among them, humanity was coming home. The alarm bells rang through the Galactic Council Station like a death song. Ambassador Kira ran down the metal hallway, her blue skin pale with fear. In 300 years, nothing like this had happened. Nothing like this could happen. The message played again on every screen in the station. A human voice speaking the old Earth language that the computers barely remembered how to translate. This is Captain Han Day of the exploration ship Taeguk. We need help. Our engines are failing. Kira stopped running. She stared at the nearest screen, watching the impossible words scroll past. Humans were extinct. The galaxy had made sure of that centuries ago. Every human world had been burned. Every human ship had been destroyed. Every last member of their dangerous species had been hunted down and killed. Yet here was proof that some had survived. Dr. Li Na stood on the bridge of the Taeguk, watching the stars through the main window. She was a small woman with black hair tied back in a simple knot. Her eyes were calm as she studied the readings on her screens. The ship around them hummed with power that no other species in the galaxy could understand. The Villani patrol ship is getting closer, said Commander Park Jin from his station. He was a big man with scarred hands from years of building impossible machines. They looked scared. Hyundai smiled. He was older than the others, with gray in his dark hair and lines around his eyes that spoke of years spent planning. Good, fear will make them careful. We need them to see us but not to attack. Should I power down our real systems? Asked engineer Kim So. She was young and eager, her fingers dancing over controls that bent the laws of physics like children bent grass. Not yet, Hyundai said. Let them see enough to be confused, not enough to understand. The Volani ship came closer. Its captain, a proud warrior named Vexhan, stared at his screens in confusion. The human ship looked simple from the outside. It was smaller than his patrol vessel. Its hull showed no weapons that his computers could identify. Yet every scanner he pointed at it gave different readings. Sometimes it seemed to be made of metal, sometimes it seemed to be made of pure energy. Sometimes his scanners insisted there was no ship there at all. This makes no sense, Vexhan said to his crew. Run the scans again. His weapons officer, a young Volani with nervous eyes, looked up from his station. Sir, my targeting computers cannot lock onto the human ship. Every time I try, they say the target has moved, but the ship is not moving. Vexhan felt cold fear in his stomach. His people had fought humans before, long ago. The story said that fighting humans was like fighting ghosts who could reach through walls to strike you down. On the Tagak, Dr. Li Na watched the alien ships struggle with their scans. They are trying very hard to understand us, she said. Let them try, Hyundai replied. Park, send out a simple message. Tell them we are peaceful explorers who need help with our engines. Park Jin typed quickly on his keyboard. The message went out in basic galactic standard language, but he smiled as he sent it. Because their engines worked perfectly, everything on their ship worked better than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The message reached Vexhan's ship. The Volani captain read it twice, then called his engineer. Sarks, what do you see when you scan their engines? Sarks was an old Volani who had fixed ships for 40 years. He looked at his screens and made confused sounds. Captain, I see engines that should not work. They seem to use gravity itself as fuel, but that is impossible. No one knows how to do that. The humans did many impossible things, Vexhan said quietly. That is why we destroyed them. But the humans were not destroyed. As Vexhan and his crew worried and wondered, more human ships were moving through the dark spaces between stars. Ships that could hide in plain sight, ships that could travel faster than light without using the jump gates that all other species needed. Ships full of humans who had spent 300 years learning things that the galaxy said could not be learned. Lieutenant Cho Min piloted her scout ship through an asteroid field near the Volani border. She was barely 20 years old, but she could fly better than pilots with 50 years of experience. Her ship moved like a living thing, dancing between rocks that would have crushed any normal vessel. Han, this is Cho Min, she said into her radio. The Volani are sending more ships. I count 12 patrol vessels heading your way. Hyundai's voice came back calm and steady. Good. The more who see us, the faster word will spread. Are you ready to show them what we can do? Always ready, Cho Min replied. Her ship spun through a gap between two asteroids that was barely wider than her hull. To her, it felt as easy as walking through a door. Back on the Galactic Council station, Ambassador Kira sat in an emergency meeting with the other leaders. High Counselor Vextar, the man who had ordered the death of humanity centuries ago, stood at the head of the table. His face was like stone, showing no emotion. The reports are clear, Vextar said. Humans have returned. Our ships have made contact with at least one of their vessels near the outer rim. How many survived? Asked the Zephyrian representative, her voice like wind through crystal. We do not know, Vextar replied. But we know they have technology we have never seen before. Technology that should not exist. The Manthari delegate clicked his claws on the table. Then we destroy them again. We did it before. We can do it again. Vexitar looked around the room at the scared faces of the galaxy's most powerful leaders. It may not be that simple this time. The reports say their ships can do things that our scientists say are impossible. They can hide from our sensors. Their engines work in ways we do not understand. They are still just humans, the Manthari delegate insisted. We are many. They are few. As if summoned by his words, every screen in the room came alive. Hyundai's face appeared, older and calmer than any human the aliens remembered. Behind him, they could see the bridge of his ship, full of technology that hurt their eyes to look at. Leaders of the Galactic Council, Hyundai said, his voice carrying to every world in the galaxy. This is Captain Hyundai speaking for the human survivors. We know you are surprised to see us. You thought you had killed us all. The room was silent except for the sound of frightened breathing. Hyundai continued. We have been watching you for 300 years. We have seen what you built after you destroyed our worlds. We have seen how you divided our galaxy among yourselves. We remember everything you did to our people. High Counselor Vextar stood up slowly. What do you want? He asked. Hyundai smiled, and it was not a kind smile. We want you to remember what you forgot when you drove us away. Humanity does not stay dead. Humanity comes back stronger. And now we are back. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in terrified silence.